What if the part of you that even you don't fully understand already made a choice? Take a slow look at these four owls. Don't overthink it. Don't analyze. Just notice which one pulls you in. The one you feel strangely drawn to. The one that feels familiar, intriguing, or impossible to ignore. That quiet pull, it matters more than you think. In a moment, you'll choose one owl, and based on that choice, you'll hear a deep psychological reading that may reveal hidden aspects of your personality, your strengths, your emotional patterns, and even the parts of yourself you usually keep in the shadows. This idea comes from Carl Jung's analytical psychology. Jung believed we're unconsciously attracted to symbols that reflect our inner world, especially parts of ourselves we don't fully see. Your intuition often recognizes truth before your conscious mind does, so trust your instinct. Which owl is calling you? If you felt drawn to owl number 1, the pale, gentle-faced owl with those deep, dark eyes, you are someone whose strength lives in quiet depth rather than loud display. On the outside, you may appear calm, soft-spoken, or even reserved, but beneath that surface is an incredibly rich inner world. You are observant in a way most people are not. You notice subtle shifts in tone, small changes in mood, the unspoken tension in a room. This sensitivity is not weakness, it's a finely tuned emotional radar. Psychologically, you are someone who processes life inwardly first. Before you react, you feel. Before you speak, you reflect. This makes you thoughtful, compassionate, and often the emotional anchor for others, even if they don't realize that's the role you're playing. You likely grew up learning to read the emotional atmosphere around you, which made you wise early in life, but may also have made you cautious. You don't just give your trust away. People have to earn access to your inner world. In relationships, you crave depth over excitement. Small talk drains you. Meaningful connection feeds you. When you love with loyalty, patience, and emotional presence. You're the type of partner or friend who remembers the little things, who listens without interrupting, who senses when something is wrong even before the other person says a word. But there's a hidden struggle here, too. Because you feel so deeply, you can also carry emotions that don't belong to you. You may absorb other people's stress, sadness, or expectations without realizing it, and then wonder why you feel overwhelmed. One of your life lessons is learning emotional boundaries, understanding that empathy doesn't mean self-sacrifice. Your natural instinct is to keep the peace, to smooth things over, to avoid conflict. But when you suppress your own needs for too long, resentment quietly builds. You may not explode dramatically. Instead, you withdraw, go silent, or feel exhausted without knowing why. That's your inner world asking for space and honesty. Mentally, you are reflective and intuitive. You often just know things without being able to explain how. Jung would say you have a strong connection to the unconscious. You pick up on symbols, dreams, moods, and patterns beneath the surface of everyday life. You might be drawn to art, music, writing, psychology, spirituality, or anything that explores meaning rather than just facts. Routine, purely practical environments can make you feel invisible or misunderstood, because your mind is wired for depth, not superficial speed. At work, you do best in roles where empathy, insight, and quiet focus are valued. You're not always the loudest voice in the room, but when you speak, people should listen, because you've thought things through. You may underestimate your own intelligence because you compare yourself to more outspoken or aggressive personalities. But your strength is in perception, not performance. You see what others miss. However, self-doubt can be a recurring theme in your life. Since you spend so much time reflecting, You can also overthink, replaying conversations, questioning your decisions, worrying whether you did or said the right thing. You are kinder to others than you are to yourself. One of your shadows, the part Jung would say you're still integrating, is your hidden strength and assertiveness. Deep down, there is more power in you than you allow yourself to show. You have firm values, strong intuition, and quiet resilience, but you sometimes hide them to avoid standing out or causing discomfort. Life will repeatedly push you to step forward, to use your voice, to say no when needed, and to trust that your needs matter just as much as everyone else's. Emotionally, you are like still water that runs deep. You may not express everything outwardly, but you feel intensely. Beauty moves you. Kindness affects you. Harshness lingers with you. Because of this, you need environments that feel emotionally safe. Chaos, aggression, or constant pressure can drain you faster than you admit. Solitude isn't loneliness for you. It's how you recharge. Time alone allows you to sort through your feelings, reconnect with yourself, and come back stronger. Spiritually or psychologically, you are on a lifelong journey of self-understanding. You often feel like there's more to life than what's visible on the surface, and you're right. You are naturally attuned to meaning, purpose, and inner growth. Your challenges are not about becoming someone else, but about fully becoming yourself. Trusting your sensitivity as strength, expressing your truth without guilt, and allowing yourself to take up space in the world. When you embrace this, you become incredibly healing to others, not because you try to fix them, but because your presence makes people feel seen and safe. Your weakness can be avoidance. Avoiding confrontation, avoiding hard decisions, avoiding situations where you might be judged. But your growth lies in gentle courage, not loud, aggressive courage, but the quiet bravery of honesty, boundaries, and self-respect. Owl number 1 is the symbol of the intuitive soul, the emotional sage, the quiet observer who understands more than they say. You are not here to compete with louder personalities. You are here to bring depth to a shallow world, calm to emotional storms, and understanding where there is confusion. The more you trust your inner voice, the more aligned your life becomes, in love, in work, and within yourself. If owl number 2 is the one that pulled you in, the dark, intense owl with piercing eyes and a powerful presence, you're someone who carries depth, strength, and complexity in a way that few people fully understand at first glance. There is a seriousness about you, a quiet intensity that others can feel even when you're not speaking. You don't move through life lightly. You move with purpose, awareness, and a strong inner compass. Psychologically, you are wired to look beneath the surface. Small talk, shallow connections, and fake smiles feel exhausting to you because you instinctively search for what is real, what is hidden, what is true. You may not trust easily, not because you are cold, but because you see how fragile and layered people really are. Your mind is sharp and perceptive. You notice contradictions, power dynamics, emotional undercurrents. This makes you insightful, strategic, and often steps ahead in understanding situations, but it can also make it hard for you to relax or just go with the flow. You feel safest when you understand what's going on, and when you don't, your mind works overtime trying to figure it out. Emotionally, you are deeper than most people realize. You may not wear your heart openly, but that doesn't mean you don't feel intensely. In fact, you often feel more than you show. Early in life, you may have learned that vulnerability wasn't always safe, so you built emotional armor. You became strong, self-reliant, and controlled. But part of you still longs to be fully seen without having to defend yourself. In relationships, you are loyal, protective, and deeply committed once someone earns your trust. You don't love halfway. You show love through actions, presence, and unwavering support rather than constant words. But your intensity can be intimidating to people who are not used to emotional depth. You don't tolerate dishonesty or emotional games, and when trust is broken, it cuts deeply. One of your life lessons is learning that not everyone is an enemy, and not every situation requires emotional armor. Letting your guard down doesn't make you weak. It allows you to experience the closeness you secretly crave. Mentally, you have a powerful will and strong focus. When you decide on something, you pursue it with determination that can border on obsession, in a good way when balanced, but draining when it's not. You are not afraid of hard work, emotional confrontation, or facing uncomfortable truths. In fact, part of you feels most alive when dealing with challenges that would overwhelm others. Jung might say you have a strong relationship with the shadow, the hidden, darker parts of the psyche. You are not afraid to look at pain, fear, or human flaws, both in yourself and others. This gives you psychological strength and emotional resilience, but it can also make you heavy at times. You may struggle with periods of brooding, overthinking, or emotional isolation, especially when you feel misunderstood. At work, you thrive in environments where power, strategy, depth, or transformation are involved. You're not built for meaningless tasks or micromanaged roles. You want responsibility, influence, and the ability to make real impact. You are naturally suited for leadership, investigation, psychology, crisis management, research, entrepreneurship, or any field that requires insight and strength under pressure. People may see you as intense, mysterious, or hard to read, but they also respect you because you carry yourself with quiet authority. However, your greatest strength can also be your greatest challenge: control. You like to stay in control of your emotions, your environment, and your future. When life feels uncertain or chaotic, it can trigger anxiety or frustration because you hate feeling powerless. Learning to trust life, to allow uncertainty without trying to dominate every outcome, is part of your growth. Your inner conflict often revolves around vulnerability versus strength. You are strong, capable, and independent, but you are also human, sensitive, and in need of connection. Sometimes you push people away without meaning to, simply because you're used to handling everything on your own. Deep down, you want someone who can meet you at your level of emotional depth without trying to fix or control you. You respect strength in others, but you value emotional honesty even more. Spiritually and psychologically, you are on a path of transformation. Life rarely feels simple for you because your soul isn't here for a shallow experience. You go through deep changes, intense realizations, and periods of emotional shedding that reshape who you are. You have the ability to reinvent yourself after hardship, to rise stronger after emotional storms. That is one of your hidden gifts: resilience through depth. Your weaknesses may include stubbornness, emotional guardedness, and a tendency to assume the worst when you feel threatened. But your strengths, loyalty, insight, courage, emotional endurance, and psychological awareness, are powerful forces when you allow them to be balanced by trust and openness. Owl number 2 represents the quiet warrior, the emotional strategist, the person who sees through illusions and isn't afraid of the truth. You're not meant for a small, surface-level life. You are here to live deeply, love fiercely, and grow through transformation. The more you learn to soften without losing your strength, the more powerful and fulfilled your life becomes. Not because you controlled everything, but because you finally allowed yourself to be fully alive. If owl number 3 is the one you felt drawn to, the warm brown owl with alert eyes and a grounded yet expressive presence, You are someone who lives in the space between heart and action, emotion and practicality, instinct and intention. You have a natural balance to you that many people spend years trying to develop. You're not as outwardly intense as some, nor as withdrawn as others. Instead, you carry a steady, approachable energy that makes people feel comfortable around you almost immediately. Psychologically, you are deeply relational. You understand life through connection, shared experiences, and meaningful contribution. You're the kind of person who checks in, who remembers birthdays, who notices when someone's energy is off and gently asks if they're okay. But unlike highly sensitive types who get overwhelmed by emotion, you have a built-in resilience. You can care deeply without completely losing yourself, and that makes you a natural supporter, friend, partner, and teammate. Your personality blends empathy with practicality. You don't just feel, you do. When there's a problem, you look for solutions. When someone is struggling, you want to help in tangible ways. This makes you reliable and trustworthy, but it can also lead you to take on too much responsibility for other people's lives. One of your inner patterns is believing that being needed equals being valued. You may overextend yourself, say yes when you're tired, or step into roles that slowly drain you because you don't want to disappoint anyone. Learning that your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others is one of your key life lessons. Emotionally, you are warm, expressive, and generally open, but you still have layers you don't show everyone. You prefer harmony over drama and often act as the peacemaker in tense situations. You can see multiple sides of a conflict and naturally try to bridge gaps between people. However, this strength can turn into a weakness when you suppress your own frustration just to keep things smooth. Over time, unspoken feelings can build into quiet resentment or emotional fatigue. Your growth lies in understanding that honesty doesn't destroy harmony. It creates healthier, more authentic connection. In relationships, you are loyal, affectionate, and emotionally available. You want partnership, not just romance. You're drawn to people who share your values, who show up consistently, and who build a sense of us rather than just focusing on themselves. You're not interested in emotional games or power struggles. You want stability, warmth, and mutual support. When you feel secure, you're playful, encouraging, and deeply loving. But if you feel unappreciated or taken for granted, you don't always confront it directly. Instead, you might slowly pull back, give less, or feel quietly hurt while still smiling on the surface. Your emotional challenge is learning to voice your needs before they turn into silent distance. Mentally, you are practical, grounded, and realistic, but not rigid. You like having plans, goals, and a sense of direction, yet you're flexible enough to adapt when life shifts. You're not driven purely by ambition or status. You're motivated by meaning and impact. You want your work to matter, to help, to build, or to improve something real. You're the type of person who thrives in environments where teamwork, service, creativity, or leadership through support are valued. You might do well in teaching, healthcare, community work, management, design, hospitality, counseling, or any field where human connection and practical problem-solving intersect. People often see you as dependable, kind, and capable, someone who can be counted on. But because you handle things so well, others may underestimate how much pressure you carry. You have a quiet tendency to put yourself last, telling yourself you'll rest later, speak later, focus on yourself later. That later can stretch for years if you're not careful. Your inner conflict often revolves around self versus others. You genuinely care, but you also have dreams, limits, and emotional needs that deserve space. Jungian psychology would say you are working on individuation, becoming fully yourself without losing your connection to others. You are not meant to disappear into roles like the helper, the responsible one, or the strong one. You are meant to be a whole person whose giving comes from fullness, not obligation. One of your greatest strengths is emotional intelligence combined with grounded action. You don't just talk about change, you create it in small, steady ways. You bring warmth into cold spaces, stability into chaos, and encouragement into doubt. People feel safe confiding in you because you don't judge quickly, and you respond with both heart and common sense. But your shadow side can show up as people-pleasing, difficulty setting boundaries, and ignoring your own exhaustion until your body or emotions force you to slow down. Burnout is often a signal for you that you've been strong for too long without support. Spiritually and emotionally, you are here to learn balance, giving and receiving, supporting and being supported, caring for others while also honoring yourself. Owl. Number 3 represents the grounded heart, the person who builds connection, creates stability, and brings warmth into everyday life. Your power isn't loud or dramatic, it's steady, real, and deeply human. When you learn to include yourself in the care you so freely give to others, your life becomes not just meaningful for everyone around you, but deeply fulfilling for you too. If owl number 4 is the one that drew your attention, the striking, pale, almost ethereal owl with sharp eyes and a commanding presence, you are someone whose personality is a fascinating blend of clarity, independence, and quiet intensity. You tend to see the world differently from most people, often noticing patterns, details, and truths that others overlook. Psychologically, you are guided by intellect and intuition in equal measure, which makes you highly perceptive and insightful. You have a natural ability to analyze situations with precision, often predicting outcomes or understanding underlying dynamics before anyone else does. Your mind is sharp, and your approach to life is deliberate. You don't rush into decisions or follow trends without reflection. At the same time, there is a mysterious, almost magnetic aura around you. People sense that you are not easily swayed, and they are drawn to your presence, whether they understand it consciously or not. Emotionally, you are reserved, but deeply aware. You may not openly express every feeling, but you feel intensely. You are introspective, often reflecting on your inner world, your values, and your purpose. This depth allows you to remain grounded in situations that might unsettle others, but it can also make you feel isolated if you perceive that others cannot reach your level of understanding. Relationships are significant to you, but you are selective. You are loyal and committed to those who match your depth of thought and integrity, but you are quick to distance yourself from superficiality, dishonesty, or emotional drama. You value honesty, clarity, and authenticity above all else. You are not one to engage in trivial conflicts or petty arguments. Instead, you seek connections that stimulate your mind and honor your sense of individuality. When in a healthy relationship, you are a supportive and attentive partner, offering insight, stability, and calm in equal measure. But if your needs for respect, space, or intellectual engagement are unmet, you may withdraw, sometimes appearing distant or unapproachable. Mentally, you are highly strategic and disciplined. You approach work, projects, and personal goals with focus and determination, often excelling in areas that require analysis, planning, or long-term vision. You are capable of handling complex challenges because you naturally break problems down into manageable components and see pathways where others see obstacles. Your intellect is a major strength, but it can also be a source of inner tension. You may overanalyze situations, second-guess decisions, or struggle with self-criticism if things don't go as planned. Your inner conflicts often revolve around independence versus connection, control versus surrender, and certainty versus acceptance of life's unpredictability. You crave freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of action, and freedom from unnecessary constraints. Yet, you are also aware that some things are beyond your control, which can create tension between your desire for mastery and the reality of uncertainty. Emotionally and spiritually, you are on a path of deep self-awareness. You often question, explore, and reflect on who you are, why you do what you do, and how you fit into the world. Jung would suggest that you are strongly attuned to the unconscious, capable of integrating shadow aspects of yourself, those hidden traits, fears, and desires that most people avoid. This awareness gives you strength, resilience, and a sense of purpose, but it requires courage to face your own depth honestly. Your greatest strengths are clarity, insight, independence, and the ability to remain composed in chaos. You are often the person others turn to for advice, perspective, or guidance because you see beyond surface-level distractions. Your weaknesses lie in perfectionism, overthinking, and a tendency toward emotional distance. Sometimes, your need for understanding and certainty can make you hesitant to act, or lead you to withdraw when connection requires vulnerability. Life's lessons for you revolve around balancing independence with intimacy, intellect with emotion, and control with trust. Owl number 4 symbolizes the observer, the wise strategist, and the deeply insightful soul. You are here to understand, to perceive, and to act with clarity, but also to learn that strength includes openness, compassion, and the willingness to let life unfold without needing to master every detail. Your journey is about embracing your own power without fear, connecting authentically without compromise, and allowing yourself to experience both the light and shadow of life fully. When you integrate these lessons, your presence becomes not only wise and commanding, but deeply transformative for yourself and everyone around you, because you embody the rare balance of intellect, intuition, and soulful insight that few truly possess. And there you have it, a glimpse into the hidden depths of your personality, revealed simply by the owl you felt drawn to. Whether you discovered new strengths, recognized familiar patterns, or uncovered parts of yourself you hadn't fully acknowledged, remember this: understanding yourself is the first step toward growth, fulfillment, and living a more authentic life. Each choice we make, even one as simple as noticing an owl, reflects who we are at our core. If this journey into your inner world resonated with you, imagine what more we can explore together. Here on this channel, we dive into the mysteries of the mind, the hidden layers of personality, and the wisdom of psychology in ways that are engaging, practical, and life-changing. Don't miss out on the next exploration of your mind, emotions, and potential. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join a community of curious, self-aware, and empowered viewers who are ready to uncover the truths about themselves and the world around them. Your journey is just beginning.